Once upon a time, in a charming place called Sunnyside Village, where the hills were emerald green, the rivers sang gentle songs, and the birds chirped a polite, "Good morning," to everyone, lived three very best friends. First, there was Arthur. Arthur had curly brown hair and always carried a large, rolled-up map in his pocket. He was the explorer of the group. Second, there was Ivy. Ivy always wore daisies in her hair, and people believed she could talk to the woodland animals. She was the one who listened to nature. And third, there was Teddy. Teddy always had a pair of red binoculars hanging around his neck. He was the observer with the sharpest eyes, spotting things miles away. One afternoon, a heavy rainstorm visited Sunnyside Village. Pitter-patter, splash, whoosh. Everyone hurried inside their cozy cottages. But soon enough, the rain stopped, and from behind the grey clouds, the giant, golden sun showed its happy face. At that very moment, the biggest, brightest, and most vibrant rainbow anyone had ever seen appeared in the sky. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. It looked as if the sky had been painted with giant magic crayons. Arthur, Ivy, and Teddy ran outside, splashing in the puddles. Teddy lifted his red binoculars to his eyes. "Gosh!" he exclaimed. "This rainbow is so huge. It looks like the end of it is touching Crystal Lake, right behind Misty Peak." Arthur unrolled his map on a dry rock. According to the legend, he whispered mysteriously, "There is a treasure at the end of the rainbow. But it isn't gold. It's something much more magical. Shall we go and find out what it is?" Ivy jumped up and down with excitement. "Oh, yes! Perhaps we shall learn how colors are made." The three friends packed their rucksacks. Arthur took the map, Ivy packed some delicious apple slices, and Teddy took his torch, just in case it got dark. And so, the great adventure began. Their journey first took them through the Redberry Fields. This place was glowing with the first color of the rainbow, red. The air smelled sweetly of strawberries and raspberries. "Look," whispered Ivy. A family of bunnies had popped out of their burrow to watch the rainbow. Ivy crouched down gently. "Hello, little ones. We are going to the end of the rainbow. Wish us luck." The bunnies wiggled their noses as if to say, "Good luck." Next, they arrived at the orange pumpkin patch. The afternoon sun had turned this field into a sea of bright orange. The path was a bit muddy from the rain. When Arthur slipped on a wet patch, Teddy quickly grabbed his arm. "Steady on, Arthur," said Teddy. "We need each other on this adventure." Arthur smiled. "Thanks, chum. We won't fall if we stick together." They marched on and reached the yellow sunflower meadow. This place was so yellow and bright that they had to squint their eyes. Bumblebees were buzzing and dancing around the giant flowers. Teddy looked through his binoculars. "We are getting closer. We are heading towards the green part of the rainbow now." And there it stood before them, the green whispering woods. This was the green color of the rainbow. The trees were so tall they tickled the sky. As they entered, the air felt cool and fresh. Ivy took a deep breath. "Can you smell the trees?" They smell so lovely after the rain. Suddenly, they heard a sound. Who? Who? It was an old owl. Arthur looked at his map, but the forest was too thick and tangly. Oh dear, he said worriedly. I think we might be lost. Ivy closed her eyes. Listen, she said softly. Can you hear the water? The rainbow was touching Crystal Lake. We must follow the sound of the water. Arthur and Teddy stood silent. Indeed, a faint splish-splash sound could be heard in the distance. Ivy's love for nature had saved them. Following the sound, they emerged from the woods and faced a wide, rushing river, the Blue River. This was where the blue and indigo colors of the rainbow reflected on the water. But there is no bridge, said Teddy. How shall we cross? Arthur looked around. There were large stepping stones poking out of the water. We shall play hopscotch, said Arthur. We will step on the stones one by one. But we must hold hands to be safe. The three friends held hands tightly. 1, 2, 3. Hop! Onto the first stone. 1, 2, 3. Hop! Onto the second. The last stone was a bit far. Teddy, who had the longest legs, jumped first and then pulled Arthur and Ivy across. They had made it. Finally, they climbed the hill covered in violet flowers, the last color of the rainbow. And behind the hill lay Crystal Lake. They gasped at the sight before them. It was breathtaking. The end of the rainbow was landing right on a tiny island in the middle of the lake. But there was no pot of gold. Instead, standing in the center of the island was a gigantic, sparkling crystal prism. The sunlight hit this crystal, and the crystal split the white light into millions of pieces, shooting them back up into the sky to create the rainbow. Hovering above the island was a gentle lady who seemed to be made of light itself. This was Lady Prism, the guardian of colors. Lady Prism smiled. Welcome, brave detectives, she said, her voice sounding like tinkling wind chimes. You have made it all the way here. Arthur asked in amazement, is this the treasure? This crystal? Lady Prism nodded. The real treasure is the secret of the crystal, Arthur. Do you know how rainbows are made? The children shook their heads. Lady Prism dipped her hand into the lake and splashed some droplets into the air. When the sunlight hit the droplets, tiny rainbows appeared. To make a rainbow, you need two things, said Lady Prism. One is rain, which can be dark and cold. And the other is sun, which is light and warm. If you ever have rainy, sad days in your life, do not fear. Because when the sun comes out, those rain droplets will turn into the most beautiful colors. Ivy, Teddy, and Arthur looked at each other. This lesson was worth much more than a pot of gold. They learned that beauty comes after the storm. Because you completed this journey together, said Lady Prism, I have a gift for you. She handed them 3 smooth pebbles from the lake. The pebbles warmed up in their hands and began to glow. Arthur's pebble glowed blue, Ivy's glowed green, and Teddy's glowed red. These stones, said Lady Prism, are the light of your friendship. Whenever you are in the dark, these will guide you. As the rainbow slowly began to fade, the three friends thanked Lady Prism and started their journey home. The way back felt much shorter because their hearts were full of joy. When they arrived back at Sunnyside Village, it was getting dark. Arthur, Ivy, and Teddy hugged each other in the village square. Arthur said, "What a splendid adventure." Teddy asked, "Do you know what the best part was?" Ivy smiled and looked at her glowing green stone. "The best part was that we didn't go to the end of the rainbow alone. We went together." That night in Sunnyside Village, three happy children placed their glowing stones under their pillows and fell fast asleep. In their dreams, they saw Redberry Fields, blue rivers, and the magnificent light of the rainbow. And from that day on, whenever it rained and the sun came out, Arthur, Ivy, and Teddy would look up at the sky and smile. Because they now knew the secret: when rain meets sun, magic begins. The end.